Welcome to What's Poppin'. I am your host, Ken Jack, and I am very, very happy to be joined by Jaren Lewison. Jaren, how are you?
Dude, good. How are you?
Doing great. You're here to promote Never Have I Ever Season 2. If you're not familiar with the show, I'll give you the stock synopsis, so to speak, and then you'll give me the real synopsis right after. You can give us your pitch, so to speak.
Yeah,
Uh,
go ahead.
The complicated life of a modern day first generation Indian American teenage girl. It's inspired by Mindy Kaling's own childhood life. It's coming to Netflix on July 15th. I almost lost track of time. I was like, oh shit, that July 15th already hit. Nope, not yet. It's the 13th. But that's a very easy, simple synopsis. You give me your pitch though for the show for people that maybe haven't seen it before or heard of it.
Yeah, so that actually was pretty well
Simple.
informed.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically it's from Mindy Kaling, who's Kelly from The Office. She's absolutely incredible. The writing's awesome, and it does follow a 15-year-old Indian American girl as she kind of navigates through high school. I think for me, like I actually really enjoy this series. I'm a little biased, obviously, because I'm in it, but I know like I go to USC and I all my college friends watch it. Like all the guys watch it too. I think that you can really identify with a lot of the characters. Like sometimes like stuff happens in our show that's super messy and it's wild and ridiculous, and it's actually really exciting and really fun and heartwarming and funny as well. So if you haven't seen it, you should definitely go check it out.
What do you think makes this show different from other coming of age dramas? Because I do think that there's a little bit of something for everyone. And that's what I would say is definitely something that stands out to me. But what do you think it is that it really makes it pop?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, there is definitely something for everyone, like you said. I think it's super relatable. Like, no matter where you come from, what your identity is, like, you can find something in our show that you can relate to and enjoy and laugh with or cry about, whatever works for you. And I think, too, like, the writing is really great. We don't really like shy away from difficult topics. It's not like, some other shows that glorify certain things or anything like that. I think that it's, like I said, it's messy, like real life is. It's representative of like a traditional high school experience, and I think that that's why people relate to it and that they really enjoy it, because it is like real life and sometimes shit does go wrong, and that's really exciting for a lot of viewers to watch. It's not so polished.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple lines in there, like right in the beginning, I think of the first episode, the first whatever 20 or so minutes. I'm like, okay, like we're pretty standard or whatever. And then they're hit the line. I think you said like the unfuckable nerd line. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh shit, like this isn't going to be very cookie cutter because that's something assholes in high school really say. So
Yeah.
that's the one where I was like, oh, this is definitely gonna get a little messier than I thought.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
like you said, this is Mindy Kaling's child, more or less. What is she like as a showrunner?
God, she's the best. I mean, like working with her, it's weird when you meet like some of your role models and heroes because you're like, oh God, I really hope that they're great. Because if they're not, it sucks. But Mindy is like everything that you'd hope she'd be. She's super collaborative. She really creates like a positive environment that makes you want to work hard and do your best. And also, like, because she's such a great actress as well, she knows how we all think. Her ability to give notes that make complete perfect sense but also allow you as the actor to like have freedom to explore that character is really special. That's like one of her most incredible skills. It always makes sense. I rarely have to ask for clarification on notes, and she also gives like really great positive feedback, so it shows you that you're doing your job well and that you're on the right track. So that's always good to hear too.
She's like a player's coach, basically, you're saying, right?
Yeah, exactly right. That's 100% right. I played football in high school, and she very much is a player's coach. 100%.
What type of advice did she give you? Because she's obviously someone that's worked in the comedy field for so long. She's part of one of the most like highly regarded sitcoms ever. So like, what'd she give you that maybe stood out to your in your head?
Well, I think like immediately, because she was in The Office. I also work with Angela Kinsley,
Yeah,
who is plays my mom on the show, who's Angela in The Office. And I think like from both of them, it's about just like living in the moment and just like living in your character and just kind of being instead of trying to force things. And I know like The Office, like sometimes they'll just crack one-liners or things like that that are improv or just come out of nowhere, and every take is different. And I think that that's the biggest thing that Minnie encourages all of us to do is like, don't try to force it. Like say those words, let the writing and the comedic beats kind of do the work for you. Because when you just sit there and you sit back and you have this character that you've developed and you just kind of go for it, that's what kind of elicits like those laughs and like big comedic beats and stuff like that. So it's really just about kind of like relaxing and doing your thing.
I love that collaborative. Just the word collaborative. Whenever you hear that heard in like any, especially a comedy set for a movie or TV show, or whatever, whenever you hear that the director is so open to other people, like, adding in their own thing, I love to hear that because I hear those sets are always fun and all that. It's great to hear.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a very straight up moment of realness.
Let's
We
go.
we were only like, when we confirmed this interview probably like 2 weeks ago or something like that, I hadn't seen the show yet at all, period. And I figured I'm going to watch a few episodes ahead of time, so I just have like a base of like what I'm talking about here, and then I'm binging the entire thing. It was incredible. It was so fast, and there's just something about it that's like, it's so like, it's comforting and familiar, but it also like it feels sort of like new at the same time. It's very hard to explain. It's just a little challenging, maybe, is the word there that I'm looking for. And do you think that that was sort of maybe the balance that Kaylin was looking for? Like, you want it to be comforting, like have that little comfort food, but also challenge you, give it a little bit of something else?
Yeah, absolutely. And two, it targets people that like wouldn't necessarily be the demographic. Like, we're a coming of age show about a 15-year-old teen girl. Like, on the surface, it may not feel like there's something for everyone, but like, I was in a Thai restaurant near USC, like after the show had come out, and there was like a 50-year-old Samoan dude with like big tattoos. Like, he could have kicked anybody's ass in there, right? And he smacked me on the shoulder, and I was like, oh no, what did I do to insult this man? And he was like, dude, just have to tell you, like, I love the show. It's so good. Keep up the good work. And I was just like, what the, like it came out of nowhere. But I think that balance does really help people relate to the show. And like, yeah, like it's gritty sometimes, and it's funny. Like, you're genuinely going to laugh out loud from a show that you didn't expect. And sometimes those are the best kinds of surprises. It's when you least expect to enjoy something. That's when you binge it, like you said, going like 5 hours straight or whatever it is.
Yeah, there's so many moments in that first episode where I'm like, oh shit, like I'm gonna go through this whole thing in like the next few hours. I think the part where like your history teacher comes in and does like we're going to talk about slavery, points at you, we're gonna talk about the Holocaust, like those bits, those little moments made me think like, oh my god, I'm really gonna watch this whole thing and like this today. Like that's
100%. He's so funny. Adam Shapiro, who plays that teacher, he's like a comedian. Sometimes he just like makes shit up, and you're just like, oh my god. I break character like at least once or twice every time I work with him, just because like I can't look at him in the eyes. Otherwise it destroys you. It's ridiculous.
Oh, that's great. So something that I think makes the show work so well is just the chemistry between you and Maitreyi Ramakrishnan, who's like, both you guys are so good. She's so charming as well. Was that easy for you guys to build that chemistry, or was that something that took time for you guys?
To be honest with you, it was like really immediate. The second I knew that I got cast, she had already been cast, and I messaged her over Instagram, and we like cringe about those DMs now that we look back on it. But it's like this weird, like, hey, like we haven't met before, but we're about to like do something really cool together. Like, hope this works out and we're friends. But the second that we met in person, like immediately like went in for a big bro hug. And it's weird because we have like really quick banter as well. She's crazy smart, and like we go back and forth really easily, kind of similar to our characters sometimes. So we kind of immediately just like had this connection. The first day, all of us went bowling as well, like all of the cast. So we already kind of like did activities and created relationships with each other, that it just kind of makes acting together super easy because you actually enjoy being around those people. So then it shows when you have your characters interacting in scenes together.
For sure. Like, it's almost like you're acting with friends. That's something I think you can note almost immediately with a lot of shows, like something like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Like, they're all friends in real life. And that's something that I think comes across on screen so well, because like you have that sort of familiarity. That's a word. That sort of like dysfunctional element to it, which I think just it definitely comes across on screen on in this show as well. Your character does get narrated by Andy Samberg, which I got to imagine is awesome because he's like a fucking comedy king, which is sick. So that must have been a great moment for you, right?
Yeah, dude. Unfortunately, I didn't get to meet him, but like I will tell you. So originally, it was supposed to be Blake Griffin, and it ended up getting changed, scheduling conflicts and things like that. And I think Andy did such an unbelievable job. Like, the second I heard his voice and I saw my face, like I paused it because I had to like take a second, because I was like, this can't be real life. Like, this is fucking insane. But he was, I think he was brilliant. I think everything that he does is so smart. I think like I love Hot Rod. It's one of my favorite movies. Palm Springs that he just did is incredible. So just to have him, and also just like, I'm Jewish, he's Jewish. Like, it's just like a big idol for me. I think he's awesome. And I really hope I get to meet him someday and like actually work in person with him.
Yeah, I think you could do like maybe I'll pitch this right now. We do what was the movie That's My Boy? We'll make That's My Boy 3, Adam Sandler, Andy Samberg, then you're the third generation now in that movie.
That would be like my dream come true. Sandler and Samberg in the same thing as my like paternal father or grandfather. That would be unreal.
Yes, exactly. You know, we made the tree. Anyway, that's great. I'd love to talk to you just about general acting too, just because I feel
Yeah.
like you're. I mean, I've done like I feel like thousands of interviews at this point, but like most of the people I interview are like decently long into their career. You're probably one of
Yeah.
the younger people I've talked to outside of the cast of like mid '90s, but which are they're like 10 years old. But yeah, so you're also a full-time student at USC, like you were talking about before, which psychology and minors in forensics and criminology. Is that right?
Yeah. It's an interesting combination. Probably not one that I think a lot of people, a lot of actors tend to have, but I love it.
Was it sort of hard during the quarantine experience to not just like, because you're losing out, especially at USC, losing out on that real life college experience, to not just be like, you know, fuck this, I'm just quit school and focus on acting? So I'm sure that would have been really hard.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like firstly, no matter what college you go to, everybody has that thought. Like every once in a
Yeah.
while, you know, you're trying to write like a 10-page paper and it's like, all right, screw that. Like, I'm just gonna go drop out. But for me, I've always been someone that's super into school. Like I love learning, I love being in class, I love being on campus. USC for me, like, yeah, it's a big party school. The social life is great. Like the school spirit's awesome. I love going to the games when we could, and like being around campus and like getting involved in all sorts of stuff. So I think for me, it was something that was important for me to do and to finish. I've got a year left and I'm just like living in every moment. I love being on campus. The school aspect is difficult when you're working, you know, 70, 80-hour work weeks, but I think that I just have that intrinsic motivation. I know that it's something that I want to do. I want to get my psychology degree and I want to get my minor and I want to finish all that before I kind of launch into this career. Because for me, it's like, well, you're only young once. I want that college experience. I want that social life. I've got friends that are business majors and economic majors and pre-med and music and all sorts of like different varieties. I want to be connected in that network because I never know what they're going to do. And it's just a really fun opportunity to like be a normal kid as well. I've got this incredible Netflix show and this amazing opportunity. I'm living my dreams as well as getting some normalcy and being a normal kid and living with my best friends at school and all that kind of stuff.
Plus, especially like you've been in, I feel like part of the business now for so long because you've done this stuff since I feel like you were a kid, basically. So,
Yeah.
like to have a little bit of more, like you're saying, of a normal life experience, I feel like just helps too when you're trying to develop characters later on. Because if all you know is acting, it's very hard to pretend to be a normal person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Dude, that was one of the biggest reasons why I also wanted to go to college is because I wanted that experience. Because I think it's like you have to, as an actor, bring authenticity and honesty to every role. And if you haven't experienced like a ton of the world, you're not going to be able to do that. Like if I one day have a role where it's this super stressed out college student who's got this mad anxiety and he's trying to like go through all the aspects of college, whether it's like meeting girls for the first time and experiencing that and going to all these parties and like all that kind of stuff. If I've never experienced that because I've been working my entire life, it's a little bit harder to kind of like portray that authentically. So I'm grateful for those experiences and it does help make me more rounded as an actor and also like personally helps my identity and my growth, you know?
For sure. Is there, do you think anything you've learned in a psychology major has helped out with acting?
Yeah, dude, 100%. That's like the biggest reason why I wanted to be a psych major is because for me, like my process is very analytical. When I'm like coming up with a character, I need to understand how my character thinks because I feel like for me as a psych major, like thoughts drive actions, behaviors, and relationships. So if I can understand how each and every character thinks, whether I'm playing a psychopath or a sociopath or Ben Gross on Never Have I Ever or anything in between, if I can understand how they think, I'll understand that world. And then again, you talk about that authenticity and that honesty, that'll hopefully come through in my performances because it's spontaneous and I'm doing something new every time because I understand how they think and I can change some of those thoughts to have like different, you know, little nuggets of variety in each and every scene. So when an editor puts it together, it's something fresh and new and really cool.
Yeah, no, I know that's weird because you think like so many people, especially in the acting world, like I don't want to say there's like an element of like psychosis that needs to go into it, but like when you're playing a lot of characters and like so many different worlds and so many different lifetimes that you have to represent yourself in, I'm sure there is such an element where it'd be easier to, you know, understand that if you have like the sort of like academic background to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's super. I mean, it's because acting is really challenging. Every single role is something that's completely different and new. Sometimes you have to bawl your eyes out, which like I'm a 20-year-old dude. I don't do that a ton in my real life, but understanding the psychology of the reasons behind that and then allowing my body to kind of like sit into that, then I can get those tears going. And you know, same if you're playing again like a psychopath where you got to understand how these people think. Otherwise, it's not going to make sense when you try and do it out loud and you try and have that script come to life, you know?
Yeah, or it'll come off as like you were saying before, almost like inauthentic, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the last thing that you want as an actor.
So like we were saying before, you're still like very young. You have been in the system for a while since you were younger, and you have this experience. But where do you, at this stage, where do you want your career to go? Like, do you want to be more in the drama sphere, more in comedy, more in TV, movies, directing, anything else? Like, where are you looking at right now? That's where it's like, that's what I want to do.
I've got a broad focus for sure. I think that several of my like biggest role models are Steve Carell, John Krasinski. I think that people who are able to do different aspects of the business at an extremely high level, Mindy Kaling included, people that can star and write and direct in all of their own projects, I think are really special. And especially too, like Steve Carell's case, I think he's one of the most brilliant comedic actors of the last however many generations. But his drama is equally as great and extremely underrated. And I want to be an actor that's like that. I want to be able to be behind the camera, produce, and maybe direct one day. I still have a lot to learn about directing entirely because it's really difficult, but I'm learning as I go. But I think, you know, having my drama be at such a high level like Steve's is one day, and also having that comedy where, you know, I can be in something and you want to pee your pants laughing, Adam Sandler included, Uncut Gems, he was unbelievable, and Happy Gilmore like still makes me pee my pants. Like it's all that kind of stuff. That's the kind of actor that I'm hoping to be. And who knows, directing one day, I think that's really interesting. I just got to learn a little bit more about it, but I'm learning as I go. So hopefully soon.
I like the comedy to drama flight path only because like that is when you mentioned that was the first example that came to mind was Uncut Gems, Adam Sandler, because like he'd done some like dramatic stuff before, but Uncut Gems was the one where I was like, God damn, dude, this dude can act really, really well in these dramatic roles, like That's the Cobbler and other stuff too. But still, like, man, he was good in that. What is an actor, an actress? Like, I feel like you said like with Krasinski or Carell, is there another one where like it's a flight path where you're like, this is the exact flight path I want? Is it like you just want to do that pure comedy to drama, or is it like someone else where it's like the Sean Penn or something like that, or maybe not necessarily, but somebody else where it's like I want to be a guy that's gonna make art films. I want to be a guy that's gonna do this.
Yeah, I mean, I love artsy films. I love like all different kinds of genres and tones, and I think working with different directors kind of allows you to achieve that. Like another huge, like larger than life example is Robin Williams. Robin Williams, whether he's doing Good Will Hunting, whether it's Aladdin doing animation work, or you know it's Dead Poets Society, or like Good Morning Vietnam, like there's so many different kinds of tonal shifts and genres that he's able to play. Like Mrs. Doubtfire, you're working with prosthetics and you're like having like double personalities. Like that kind of stuff is so fascinating for me as an actor, as someone who loves psychology, because it's a new challenge every time. And it's something that like has a lot more technical aspects to it than people may think. Like having the tone not be too over the top for Mrs. Doubtfire, but also like sometimes like Robin Williams sinks down into these really deep, complex, emotional, heartbreaking moments. Like that's what I want to be. And that's what I'm striving towards. I try to do that as much as I can. And never have I ever, like my character has a crying scene in episode 6, which is that episode that you mentioned that's narrated by Andy Samberg. Like I had to, you know, my character's kind of loud and brash for people that haven't seen the show. He's kind of a jerk sometimes. And you peel back those layers and you see underneath, there's so much more going on. His upbringing has been really difficult. You know, he has these fears of being abandoned and forgotten and not feeling validated, even though he's really smart and wealthy and all those things that on the surface level you'd think would make a person happy. But you know, you sink down into that, and that's what really helps audiences identify with your character and root for them. So those are the kinds of characters that I love sinking my teeth into and that I want to continue to portray.
Again, Never Have I Ever season 2 coming out on July 15th. Just want to note that. But Ben Gross is, I think, a character everyone knows in high school. I think we all have like that, at least one or two people we know like that. Like the guy who's like, oh, I have a cousin that works in Nintendo. He got this game early and I got to play it. Like they're not even necessarily liars, but people who are, like you're saying, like super brash, super loud. And you could just tell there's like a level of emptiness or hollowness to like the whatever it is that they say. And there is like a certain sadness to that, which is definitely comes through in that episode you're talking about, where you get sort of ditched for the game. Which is very sad.
And it's important too, because on the surface level, like again, going back to what we were saying earlier about relatability, there is a Ben Gross in every high school, but a lot of times like people are just like, oh, that kid's an asshole. And you don't go underneath that and see, wow, like this person might be super wealthy or like seem overconfident or brash on the outside, but underneath, like this is just a really sad, lonely kid who, like, if you peel back those layers, is so genuine, caring, and kind, but no one gives him that chance because he's never felt seen by anybody. So I think that for me, portraying that character, I want audiences to look at those Ben Gross and those characters in their lives and say, wow, like maybe I should take a step back. maybe I should look at this person in a different way and try to talk to them, try to get underneath this surface level personality that they might have and see if they really are a great kid, because chances are they just haven't had that opportunity to showcase that yet.
You know what episode that reminded me of? And this is, it took me so long until just now, literally to realize what it was. And it's, there's Freaks and Geeks. There's an episode where it's based on Martin Starr's character. And there's just a scene where it's him like laughing at a TV, I think he's watching a stand-up or something. And he's just like goofing off and laughing. And like, there's such like a vulnerability to that. And I think that your episode, the one we were just talking about, definitely has that same sort of vibe. And I'm only just now connecting the dots on that what it reminded me of. And I think the show sort of captures some of those same vibes as Freaks and the Geeks too, for sure. Yeah. The comedy drama sort of blend in the coming of age genre as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So USC, want to name some active USC grads that are acting, because there's a lot.
And there's so many. Do you have a list?
And insane. I'm going to give you 5 choices, and I'm going to give you get to pick one to do a movie with. One,
okay,
just
one.
I
feel like I already know who. Okay, yeah. Are you including directors or just actors?
It's everything. You got the full gamut. You can be working with or working under. It doesn't matter. So first is going to be Regina King.
Yeah.
And she's now a director too. A fantastic one.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard. Will Ferrell, which we knew was coming.
Yeah.
And Dave Franco.
Yeah.
And I could see you playing a younger brother of Dave Franco.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ron Howard.
Yeah, he's great.
Or Forrest Whitaker.
Shoot, that's so difficult. Just because I grew up with Will Ferrell, I feel like I really want to pick him. You know, he's a comedic genius. Mm-hmm. I think that for me, like if I want to get better at my comedy, if I work with him once, I think it'll never leave me for the rest of my life. The same with Ron Howard and Regina King and Forrest Whitaker, everybody else on that list, you know. Dave Franco's great too, but I think I love Anchorman. I love Elf. I love like so many things that Will Ferrell's done. Talladega Nights, like I still quote with my friends. Like I feel like I couldn't turn that opportunity down. He's so funny. I would love it.
That's one where if you ever watch like outtakes to doesn't matter, Ron Burgundy, whatever else, that looks like the funnest sets to be on, or anything where Will Ferrell's involved. Because
there's a crew member actually, his name is Kevin Hyde, and he worked on Anchorman, and he tells me stories all the time about working on that set and how like oftentimes the cameramen would have to like get off of their cameras and literally leave the room because they'd be shaking from like laughing, because you can't move the camera that way, because he was that damn funny. So I strive to be that every day.
I love that. Again, Never Have Ever season 2 up on Netflix July 15th. Again, this show made a believer out of me like that. Again, it became like a 2-day binge for me after I thought like, oh, I'm going to watch like 1 or 2 episodes and get a feel for it. And I went straight through it. It's funny. It's unique. I just loved it. You were fantastic in it. Jaren, thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, man. Thank you.